Alright guys, hope you all had a good weekend. A few news things to talk about in today's video, like changes coming to attributes with title update 11, more news on the gear mod slot changes I talked about in my last video, possible changes for the focus talent in the future, and maintenance tomorrow with some big PvP changes that I want to talk about, and some other bits that I want to talk about as well. As always, would really appreciate a like on the video if you enjoyed this one. If you don't, then drop a dislike, I don't mind. Just get down below, interact with the video, subscribe for Division content, and let's begin. So let's start with the EMP, because this has been confirmed as a change for title update 11 if the devs can do it in time. Bruce has been on Twitter answering questions a lot recently, as you guys have probably seen from the last couple of videos. It's pretty much been his content that I've been covering. And this one was following a thread about skills at skill tier 0 having an effect on other players who possibly have skills that are much higher in tiers. This time to Corpus said on Twitter, I think once the level 0 EMP issue cancelling out a 6 shield gets changed, that it will help that current scenario out. I just believe that at the moment 2-7 gaming shield is easily thrown away by any player in conflict regardless of build. To which Bruce responded, tier 0 EMPs destroying all skills regardless of their tier is definitely still on my list of things to fix, and I'm hoping it can be done for TU11. Now of course this is PvP related, and having read through the thread myself, there's some counter argument to this change coming from others who believe this would create an environment where there would kind of be 0 counters for the shield. Now I don't play PvP, so for me to kind of give any kind of feedback here wouldn't make too much sense, but I'd like to hear from you guys, any PvP players who watch my videos. I'd like to hear what you've got to say about this in the comments down below. I do agree, at least on paper, that having a skill tier 0 EMP should not destroy a skill tier 6 shield. That kind of doesn't make sense. And maybe there would need to be kind of some sort of scaling based on the tier of the EMP. For example, if you've got a skill tier 3 EMP, maybe the shield goes down for or is disabled for 5 seconds, and the amount of seconds increases depending on the tier that you are, or decreases depending on what tier you are. Something like that would make sense to me, but like I said, I don't really know how it kind of works in PvP, so let me know what you guys think about that. Now, following on from my last video, I put a poll on Twitter asking if NPCs feel more aggressive since TU 10.1 had dropped, or whether I was just kind of making poor decisions with my movement. And we've had 200 votes back on Twitter, with the majority actually saying it does feel that way. Which I wasn't surprised about, but I kind of was, because I just thought I'd become a bad player all of a sudden. Now, I played again yesterday for a couple of hours, not really paying attention to this question, because I didn't want it to be something that I really paid attention to, because then I would start to kind of form to go against what I believe is happening, if that makes sense. I'll be looking for examples that go with that. So I was kind of just playing the game. I was just running some control points. And I can safely say that I really do feel a difference with the NPCs since TU 10.1. Now, I don't want to say that every update the NPCs appear to change, but it does kind of feel that way. No word from the devs yet on this, and we likely won't hear anything until State of the Game returns next week, and we probably won't hear anything about this in next week's State of the Game, just because I think there's more pressing kind of issues, TU11, that sort of thing that they're going to be looking at, and I don't think this will make the grain, although I do think it's something they might address and kind of get feedback on from the community. I don't think a lot has to be changed here, to be honest. I just think the devs need to kind of iron out the over-aggressive nature of NPCs, because it's still very much there, and like I said, it does feel like it's been more prevalent since TU 10.1 has come out. I think their range with their weapons needs to be adjusted. Certainly the range and accuracy at range is one of the biggest problems. Like I said in my last video, I've been getting hit by veterans from where I can't even see them outside of marksman range with their weapons, and they're hitting me pretty good. And also possibly the sprint speed for NPCs, again, it still feels a little bit out of touch, especially when they're flanking. They kind of just run, and they don't take any care of their life. They don't drop into cover, they just carry on sprinting for whatever cover they're going for, and I don't know, it doesn't feel very realistic to me, and their sprint speed, again, still feels a little bit out of touch for me. Next up, and I suspect we will be getting a gear, skill mod and mod management overhaul at some point, following Bruce's tweet where he says everyone on the team agrees the gear and skill mod system and mod inventory management needs an overhaul, and we would like to address this in the future. It's just a question of time and resources. So I suspect when they say overhaul, it's going to be very similar to what we got with Gear 2.0, and it's going to be a pretty substantial overhaul to the these systems. Now, with this comment in mind, what could the devs do, in your opinion? Now, I did put out a community post here on YouTube for your suggestions on how we might improve this system. And I just wanted to highlight a couple here, giving my comments. Ultimately, for me, it's the community that knows best. And that's why I like to get you guys involved in these kind of discussions. And, at the end of the day, it's going to be a mixture of both the community and the devs on what is going to change. And if it is an overhaul like Gear 2.0, for example, then I hope they get it right the first time, which is why we need as much feedback as possible straight away. Now, the first comment I want to talk about came from Loss N209, who talked about the RNG and the fluff of skill mods, diluting the loot pool, creating more RNG for no real reason aside from padding, just RNG for the sake of having RNG. Now, I talked about this in my last video a little bit, but a good example is like the 10% skill haste on a skill mod. That just does nothing at all, and it just seems completely pointless. You're going to get maybe a second off. How about a turret mod giving you an additional 4% damage? These values are so low that they literally make no difference whatsoever. They're completely inconsequential. I mean, if you never put this skill mod on the turret, if you never put this 4% damage on a turret, you wouldn't even notice. You would see no difference. And if you're not seeing any difference, then I don't really see the point in them being there. Now, the devs could easily remove these mods, and I don't think anyone would care. So, for me, the values alone, they really need to be looked at. And the devs need to decide whether these are they're going to have an impact or not. And if they're not, then why are they there, in my opinion? But not just the value, but balance as well. For example, on a turret, I can have 10% skill haste, which will reduce the cooldown on my turret by just under 1 second. Or I could have a duration mod, which would keep my turret up for a further 20 seconds. Now, in PvE, where the turret rarely gets destroyed by NPCs, or certainly with a playstyle that I play at, where, I sit in cover, I have a turret with me, and I let my drone go out and do its job, and obviously the drone soaks up most of the NPC kind of aggression, then my turret rarely ever gets destroyed, and it normally stays out for its entire period. So why would I put the skill haste mod on for that? I get 1 second less to deploy that skill, but lose 20 seconds of duration. So to me, that's a huge kind of imbalance, and it just doesn't make any sense in my opinion. Why does the turret have a damage mod, but then also have a burn damage mod? Why does the drone have a duration mod slot, but then have a deflect duration mod? These kind of things to me, they're just fluff. They dramatically increase the RNG for just the sake of RNG, and they don't need to. Now, I'm not sure if a whole new approach needs to take place here to skill mods. That's not my job, but I just know that this needs to be looked at, because these kind of things just, they don't make any sense. In terms of gear mods, we know these are going to be generic with TU11, so there's going to be no more restrictions on colour, red, blue, yellow. That's all going to be removed, which I don't mind. Personally, I don't mind the values of gear mods, and I think they feel about right. Crit hit chance at 6% on one mod, that feels fine. Maybe headshot damage is still a little bit too low. I'm not totally sure, but at least from what I can see in the game, I don't see a whole lot of people using headshot damage mods. Most people are using crit damage and crit chance mods at the moment, so I think there maybe needs to buff to the headshot damage. Would I like gear mod slots on every piece of gear? Probably, but all in all, I can't see a better way to do it, so I'm intrigued what the devs have in mind. What I'm really cautious about is I don't want the devs to just completely make the game very casual, so there still needs to be an element of people making builds and that sort of thing, which is why I said about having gear mod slots on every piece of gear rather than just on free or whatever. Mod management is a problem still, of course, but I do think this can easily be solved by a mod library. Somewhat Bruce has acknowledged on Twitter as a good quality of life change, and somewhat I hope the devs can implement as soon as possible. They have the structure there already with the recal library for gear and weapons, so without being a dev and just thinking of it on paper, it does seem like an easy thing to implement. And before we move on, just going back to skill mods, maybe the devs could consider removing the skill mod requirements for skills, i.e. on a turret, you have organic circuits, cyclone magazine, and carbon fiber barrel, and you need those particular mods for those particular things. Maybe they could remove those requirements and allow us to put multiple, say, skill haste mods on, or multiple duration mods or damage mods on there instead. This suggestion came from Eat Your Cereal in the community post, and it sounds good to me. Again, though, I'm still cautious that we're removing all RNG. If we do it too much, then it's just going to become far too casual to the point where everyone gets all of their stuff within 5 minutes. And I don't think that's what people want. People still want a reason to grind the game a bit. Last thing for this one, Bruce has been on Twitter today talking about the tank Lady Death builds, and he's posed a question that I think you guys who are familiar with this in PvP should try and give feedback on. He said tanky Lady Death builds are definitely strong and common, but is it the overrepresentation a result of the build being too powerful, or just very easy to use exploit due to the amount of cover and line of sight blockers available when closing the gap? Not a rhetorical question, by the way. Now, a few people have put in the comments they don't really understand the question. The question basically is it that the build is just too powerful, the whole tanky Lady Death build, or is it just that it's just very easy to use and it's easy to exploit because of cover and line of sight? Now, personally, I've got no idea. Reading the comments, it appears people are saying the Lady Death is the problem in PvP, giving you an insane amount of damage for just running around. So when you stack this with Adrenaline Rush, which gives you extra armor every 5 seconds when you're within 10 meters, and then Intimidate, add with that a 6 blue build, you basically have really strong damage but very high survivability too. Some people have commented saying, you know, on top of this you could run a shield and you could run Riot Foam, and this just again makes the problems even worse. Overall, guys, PvP is still very much a mess, and unfortunately I just cannot foresee this ever being fixed. I don't think I think there's too many elements within PvP that throw it out of whack far too easily. For me, give me a stripped back mode where headshots matter, where gunplay matters with very limited skills, maybe just 1 or 2 for AoE or defensive roles, maybe the slight little bit of healing here and there, and I'd be happy. That's what I'd be happy with. I think for anyone wishing that PvP be in a good place, they've got to remember that with the Division 1, whilst it was fun, it was never in a good place, it was just fun. And I think at the moment with the Division 2, that's the best you're going to get. It's never going to be fixed. It might become fun at one point, but I just don't think it's going to happen. But, you know, they are looking to fix it, so maybe, you know, prove me wrong. I would love them to prove me wrong. But just get on over there, leave your feedback, and hopefully they can look to make changes to this new problem, or meta, which there's always going to be a meta, but this new meta within PvP. Alright guys, that's it for today's video. Thanks very much for watching. If you did watch to the end, then I really do appreciate your support. If you haven't got notifications turned on, make sure you do, and that way you won't miss a video. My next one should be out on Friday, and with that said, Epic out.